The purpose of a writer is to keep civilization from destroying itself. William Faulkner. Greetings everyone, I'm Iman and I'm going to talk to you today about the purpose of narration. We use narration every day. We might write about the week's events in a personal journal, or we might send a letter to a friend detailing our vacation. At college, we are required to write narrative essays and dissertations about a historical event or a novel. At work, we might use the narration to explain an incident involving a coworker or a customer. Therefore, mastering the narrative rhetorical mode is important. First, let's define the narrative writing. Narrative writing refers to a written account of a series of related events. This type of writing can be fiction, like novels, fables, short stories, and plays, or it can be nonfiction, like biographies, memoirs, literary journalism, and travel writing. The purpose of narrative writing is simply to tell stories. These stories can entertain readers by drawing them into the world of a story similar to a fairy tale or a short story. They can educate by presenting information through a compelling story structure, such as history books. Stories can also create bonds through vivid descriptions and compelling events. Narrative writing can make readers feel emotionally engaged and help them experience events and ideas in their mind's eye. Next, we'll take a look at the structure of a narrative writing. A narrative writing consists of a beginning, a middle, and an end. The events of the story are often written in chronological order. One way to make sure of the correct order is to draw a timeline. The use of transitional words and phrases is recommended to assist the reader in following the sequencing of a story. Here are some examples. Besides telling the events of the story in the order in which they occurred, you have to talk about the characters who are involved. Usually, there are two types of characters, minor characters and main characters. The minor characters generally play supporting roles to the main characters. The plot is a set of events that unfold in a story. It consists of 5 parts: exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. The conflict of a story is the problem that a character faces. These conflicts can be internal, a character versus themselves, or external, a character versus another character, or versus society, versus nature, versus fate, versus machine, or versus a supernatural power. Usually, the beginning of the essay or the introduction is the exposition part, where we learn about the characters, the setting, place, and time, and often there is a physical setting and an emotional setting, meaning the mood or the atmosphere of the story. And there is also in the introduction, towards the end of the introduction, the conflict or the initiating incident. Then comes the development or the body paragraphs, where we learn about the rising action, the climax, and the falling action. And then comes the end, where there is the conclusion or the resolution, which can be happy, sad, there can be a twist or a surprise, or it can be unresolved, leaving the readers on a cliffhanger. The story can be told in first-person narration, meaning that it's narrated using the pronoun I. It can be told through the second-person narration, meaning that the narrator talks to the reader and uses the pronoun you. Or the narrator can use third-person narration, narrating from a distance using he, she, it. There are 3 types of third-person narration. First, omniscient, where the narrator knows everything: the future, the past, the character's feelings, thoughts, and intentions. The second one is limited, where the narrator knowledge is limited. And finally, objective, where the narrator only describes what is happening, like a camera filming. The theme is another essential component of a narrative writing. It is the ultimate message the narrative is trying to express. It can be either explicit or implicit. It is woven through the story and it deals with major concepts such as human nature and life. Following this segment is how to write a narrative essay. Number one, you should decide on whether you want to write a factual or fictional story. Either way, the narrative has to be emotionally engaging. Number two, free write, brainstorm, mind map your ideas on topics that interest you. Number three, sketch out the major events of the plot in a chronological order. Number four, create your central conflict. Number five, the introduction should be strong in order to hook and intrigue the reader into wanting to read more. Number six, words are your tools in writing. Therefore, you should choose specific descriptive words that will help your reader see or picture the event you are describing. To illustrate, here are three pairs of sentences that exhibit the importance of description in narrative writing. They have a large house. They have a two-floor red brick house. An old man walked down the street. An 8-year-old man stumbled along the Fifth Avenue. Mr. John is the best teacher I ever had. Mr. John is the most humorous and hard-working teacher I have ever had. Number seven, the central conflict should be resolved by the end of the story. And finally, number eight, the conclusion should accentuate the ultimate theme or the unifying idea of the piece. To sum up, narration is the art of storytelling. Narratives can be either fictional or non-fictional. They should be emotionally engaging. The events in a narrative should be sequenced in a chronological order. Using transition words and phrases is key to guide the reader in the sequencing of events. The basic components of all narratives are plot, characters, conflict, setting, point of view, and theme. The use of description in narrative writing is essential to engage the reader into the story. Furthermore, a strong introduction is needed to hook the reader, and a strong conclusion where the conflict is resolved and evokes the narrative's theme. I'd like to finish this video by a couple of quotes about the process of writing that remind us of the common journey all writers experience. This first quote is by Anne Lamott. You don't have to see where you're going. You don't have to see your destination or everything you will pass along the way. You just have to see 2 or 3 feet ahead of you. The second quote is by Scott Burkham. It's not the fear of writing that blocks people, it's the fear of not writing well. Something quite different. Thank you, and I'll see you another time.